Hey, you guys want some good news for once? A little bit of good news, a little tasty morsel, a little treat, perhaps? I think that'd be nice. Modi, aka Indian Hitler, has won a tie matching third term as prime minister, but he didn't win by much.
The celebration went on as planned, with drums, dancing, and a band. Setting aside the fact this was not the landslide victory predicted for Narendra Modi's BJP party. By the time the Indian Prime Minister appeared for supporters, election results were sobering, pointing to a third term for Modi, but not a majority.
He has lost his majority. Now, yeah, 63 seats. For a populist like Modi, a Hitlerite like him, losing this many seats is a massive show of lessened competence by the people. You know, I think he's over. I think he's cooked. Modi is, like, easily a fascist. The problem with being a fascist in India is that India is too big and too underdeveloped to control with the iron fist that Modi wants. China, for example, right now is a little bit better at sort of maintaining the continuity of the Chinese Communist Party and Xi Jinping, in large part because they're developed enough that the economic centers of power can be kind of, at the very least, watched over by the party. The Chinese Communist Party does not have as much power in China as we often ascribe to it. It has plenty of power, don't get me wrong, but China's a big country. A big country with a lot of people. And so is India. But India is significantly less developed than China, and as a consequence of that, it is even more difficult to use the modern apparatuses of surveillance in the state for Modi to, like, really control things, you know? And the fact that he's lost a bunch of public support, as evidenced by the fact that he's lost a majority in their parliament, means that I think he's kind of washed, you know? Like, how are you going to do a Hitler thing if you don't have a blowout election, right? Can't really do it. Without the mandate of the masses, the so-called mandate of the masses, the mandate of heaven, exactly, you can't really do that populist Indian Hitler bit.
In his speech, Modi thanked the people of India and promised a new chapter for the country.
Narendra Modi and the BJP were always expected to win. The surprise here, that's...
Could you have chosen a worse place to do this recording, out of curiosity? Like any other place.
Stronger showing by the opposition to make this election competitive.
Opposition parties, led by Rahul Gandhi's Congress Party, rejoiced at pulling off such an upset. Gandhi called it a fight for India's constitution, saying the poorest of this country have done this. The largest election in world history, a record 642 million voters, enduring a heat wave so punishing, officials say at least 30 election workers died of heat stroke.
Sheesh.
In Varanasi, the Hindu holy city that is Modi's constituency, voters said they worried about jobs and inflation.
Isn't it crazy that over here in America, when we see a guy like this, we have all these connotations with, like, spirituality, but in reality, this is literally the Hindu equivalent of, like, an evangelical voter who lives in, like, you know, the Midwest and attends their local evangelical megachurch. That's crazy, huh? Yeah, here, this was linked a second ago, Indian Express. You can see the change in the voting block here. This is the 2024 election results by district, and then here is 2019. You might notice that Modi's orange has receded a little bit with their local parliamentary representative elections. Modi wanted a 2/3 majority to change the constitution, and they did not get that shit. Those look like gains in populated areas too. I think so. This area of India is significantly more populated, right? Over here? Tell me I'm wrong. Uttar Pradesh, yes? Gotcha. Pretty significant difference.
Voters said they worried about jobs and inflation.
Employment especially, and the bad influence on youth because of the social media and all.
At one polling station...
It's the same! We're all the same, man! We are one species connected by brotherly love. We're here in America, Seattle, Washington, talking about people being cooked because of social media. Flash over to India and same shit.
A debate escalated between Tasneem Fatah and a man who didn't agree with her views on unity or jobs. Modi is incredibly popular, his approval rating over 70%, but critics say his nationalist politics have divided the country. His speeches ramping up rhetoric against minorities, especially India's Muslims.
He's used his cult of personality very effectively to make himself present and visible in the eyes of the voter always. It is his picture that you see when you receive benefits from the government.
Modi must now rely on the goodwill of coalition partners in order to form a government for his historic third term. The opposition here calling it democracy's victory, that he will go into it weaker.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any recovering from this. Even if he's able to form enough of a coalition to govern the country normally, like, the results here just take away so much momentum from his efforts to really consolidate power. Yeah, the coalition isn't ideological. He's not going to be able to form a 2/3 coalition that's committed to the Modi Hitlerite platform.
Janice Mackey-Frayer joins Top Story tonight from New Delhi. So, Janice, two questions. First, what can America expect from a third term with Modi? And the second question is, I know AI played a big role in this election. Explain to our viewers how.
Well, on your first question, U.S.-India relations are not quite an alliance, but
Modi's big problem is that his Hindu nationalist movement has big splits based on language, and he's taken up Hindi linguistic supremacist platform, alienating non-Hindi Hindu nationalists like Tamil Hindu nationalists who even joined the opposition coalition. Nice! Hey, who could have known that it's actually really, really, really difficult to construct like a broad, pluralistic, national unity front against minorities when you have 1.4 billion people in your country and you keep attacking, like, you keep like building lines and walls for people to fight over, you know? Who could have guessed, man?
the relations are good, they're stable, they're expected to grow as the Biden administration looks to India to help balance China's influence in the region and as more American companies grow manufacturing here.
There's actually a Weimar comparison to be made here. In the last free and fair election in Germany before the Nazi takeover, the Nazis lost a ton of seats, momentum nearly completely tanked. They got lucky in 33, but if the conservatives weren't desperate, the coalition with him, the move could have tapered out. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily comparable, right? Like, Hindenburg wanted the political clout and the populist and unemployed vote by putting forward Hitler and sort of like fronting that coalition, right? That was like a move of political convenience and assumed alliance. But that was before Hitler had a chance to demonstrate what his policies actually were. Modi has. He's going into his third term. This isn't like a decline in popularity prior to ruling. This is you ruling for like a decade and then declining, right? It doesn't, you're not leading into this big crescendo. You know, you're already on the downhill slope. I mean, you can come back. It's just, I don't think that there's a point from here, at least not one that I anticipate, where the other coalition groups are like, you know, we see you losing power and we're going to sacrifice our own power, our own legitimacy in order to front for you when you're already on the decline, you know?
India has become more of a global player under Modi.
True! Indian politics summarized.
And that is due to its growing economy. But he has domestic issues that he's going to face in this third term. The biggest complication is this lack of...
Can we say something, though? Of all of the global fascist leaders, I think Modi by far looks the best. This is totally superficial. I literally just mean the man's got a good aesthetic to him. Well-trimmed beard, dresses well. You know, just in terms of, like, presentation. I'm always impressed with how handsome he is, frankly. Yeah.
The majority, the BJP is no longer the single dominant political power here, and that's not something Modi has experienced yet. Another
interesting thing is that Modi's party kept buying off MPs from other parties. The BJP party is very corrupt, and as a result, they actually cleaned up the other parties, so what's left is a good crop. Is that true? They, like, bought off all of the corrupt, shiftless reps from the other parties, and as a consequence they all locked the f in because they were like, all right, now we know who's in for it, you know? That is really funny. Task failed successfully. Task succeeded piratically, perhaps.
leader. On your question of AI, that was the other defining factor of this election process, just how much money was being spent not only on digital ads, but deep fakes, not always for malicious purposes. In a lot of cases, low-level politicians were using it to speak different languages, to be able to communicate with their constituents. We kept an eye on this trend because AI has been showing up in elections all around the world, and this is a very consequential year for elections. And of course, it all serves as a big warning sign for what could be ahead for voters in the U.S. ahead of November. Tom?
Janice Mackey-Frayer.
Okay, well, I don't know if that was necessarily the angle that I would have gone with, but I mean, whatever. Imagine that actually convincing people. That video convinced 500,000 like septuagenarian Hindus to vote for Modi, okay? There's like 20 different ongoing insurgencies in India, including a big Maoist one. That rate the fit of the opposition leader. I mean, he's just wearing a white, like, polo shirt here. It fits him well, though. Men of the West, make sure to wear stuff that fits you, okay? It's got to fit the shoulders properly. The shoulder seam should be going right here. Whoa! Okay, yeah.
This is quite a blow to Narendra Modi, given what polling was suggesting, just how strong the results were supposed to be.
You're right. It is a huge blow for Modi. In fact, one political analyst said that this is not an election. It is a political earthquake. I mean, no one saw this coming. And the fact that the Indian stocks dumped about 8% at one time says just about everything. Now, after the vote count, this is where it stands. When it comes to Modi's BJP party, they secured 241 seats. Yes, it is, you know...
Exactly. Remember, polling was invented by the devil. Don't believe it. If the polling could have anticipated a BJP blowout, what didn't happen, it can also anticipate a Trump blowout that doesn't happen. Okay? India's most popular pollster who predicted a Modi landslide cried on TV because he was so wrong. Man, I wish that happened with Tim Pool. What's his name? Can I see that? Also, Comrade Robin Hood, do you just like... Are you Indian? You always know shit going on in other countries. You're always on your point. You just follow foreign politics a lot? I mean, I respect it. You're a wealth of knowledge in chat. 999 province landslide, yeah.
They want their seats. So, in fact, the whole position for the BJP is in question, along with Modi's position himself. Remember that BJP is as strong as Modi. Modi came to power 10 years ago, and that brought along the power of the BJP. That is now in question. Modi
has also recently said, quote, "When my mother was around, I thought I was born of her, but since she has died, I have realized I am not a biological entity, but I am sent by God to do a duty, and I will fulfill that duty." Are we doing immaculate conception shit? Cool. I guess for Hindus, maybe immaculate conception, it's like a different thing. It's not like a Christ allegory. I think I saw this. While his mother was alive, he believed he was born biologically, but after she died, he became convinced that God had sent me, and the kind of energy that he possesses cannot come from a biological body. That rules, dude. Following up with the Indian Hitler comparisons, we have the standard Nazi esotericism. Powerful stuff. What's his religion? Hindu. He's a Hindu nationalist. I mean, he's probably himself not very religiously devout. That's it, because that's always how it is, but...
Oh God!
No, but the thing is, listen.
You get it all
Pradeep, come on. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. You know, in life you can't get all right. Okay, in life you can't get all right. There's a lot of rigor and effort that goes in, and we've been. If you look at all our...
It's okay, man. It's okay.
Posts and our coverage during the post poll also, we were constantly saying, let's not get carried away. It's a post poll. It's directional.
Pardon my ignorance, why is this in English? If he's a super famous pollster, like, I know tons of Indians speak English, but surely not enough that it would be the preferable language to speak, right? Because of the Brits? India speaks a lot of languages. Is that really the largest unifying language? My understanding is that English is only spoken in the, like, wealthy city areas, but that most of India... Oh, God, I guess there isn't really, like, another big unifying language, right? British, man. In some regions it is. What would the most popular non-English language be? Apparently over 100 million people speak English in India, just 12% of the population, but still huge. It's just such a big country. Hindi? Okay, but by what percentage? Top languages in India. Hindi, yeah. But by how much? Yeah, it seems like Hindi is a lot more popular than English. Well, wait, for this one, it says that only a tiny percentage of people speak. Oh, as a second and third language, I see. So we want total speakers right here. Hindi has 4 times the speakers of English. So is this like a class distinction thing? The legacy of colonialism being that it's mostly wealthy city dwellers who speak English, so they speak to each other in English? Kind of like French in a lot of West Africa. It's more about education, but yeah. Huh. Like they're taught in English. In home, they speak Hindi. In school, they speak English. And as a consequence, English is thought of as like the professional language. No? Yes? Mix of both? Okay, whatever, man. It's a big country. It's a big country. Whatever, dude. That's okay. This is 2011. Since then, English has exploded. So you're saying it's more popular today than it is in 2011? Oh, yeah. Chat's so consistent. I don't blame them. It's India. Huge country. A lot of different narratives, you know, can be the case. I mean, look at all these languages, man. What the Like, in America, it's pretty simple. America's a really young country. America's official language, basically, is English. There are lots of other people who speak different languages, but it's because of immigrant groups. It's not because of, like, America contains within it a bunch of domestic American ethnic and linguistic groups that originally spoke. I mean, you've got like native tribes and stuff, but they're like a rounding error in the overall. Yeah, we killed them. We killed them. So they're not around anymore to our clean charts, you know? Hindi is a regional language. There are a lot of speakers, but almost all of them are in the north. English is more spread throughout the country. Interesting. That is so interesting. The thing is that in India, for the last 10 years, we have very little sociological data. This was a talking point for the election. When was the last census in India? It was 2011? They haven't done a new one? Bro, they've got like 500 million more people since then. Update? I guess a census of a country this large and this spread out and this like complicated would be incredibly difficult. This election took place in 7 phases over like 3 months. In fairness, the American presidential election cycle lasts 4 years. So, heat map of Hindi speakers. God damn. Look at that. Interesting. And I guess English would be like less common overall, but more spread out. Man, imagine being a highly sectarian ethno-nationalist dictator over a country like this. India isn't a country, man. India is a empire. Like, Jesus Christ. It's so diverse. There are some diverse countries out there. America is super diverse, right? Brazil is super diverse, but Brazil is like still like a country, you know? I don't know what the fuck is going on in India. Yeah, you've got, India's got like a whole, yeah, I guess that's why they call it a subcontinent. It's got so much going on in it. Yeah, like if all of Europe was in one country. It's crazy. Population height map. Isn't this area right over here to the north like the most fertile food floodplain in the world, or one of it? This area right here is like, if you buy a packet of seeds from Lowe's and you just sprinkle it into the ground, they sprout up so quickly they hit you in the chin, along with Ukraine and Mississippi. Probably also around the Nile, right? The original breadbasket, you know, you cross the Euphrates and you've got used to be, yeah, not anymore, but yeah, the Nile's screwed now. Yeah, we diverted the water. The south of India is comparatively more developed than the north. That's really interesting because I don't know any other countries where it works like that, where you have like highly populated, highly dense, relatively urban, underdeveloped areas compared to less dense, less populated pinpoints of relatively well-developed cities. Because of trade ports? No, I get that. It's just usually the areas where the population like floods to, I guess. I feel like I would need to do like 50 research streams on India to even get a tiny grasp of what's going on here. Not even like contemporarily, but historically. They were former colonial trade hubs. Yeah. It's a massive, complicated country with a rich history. In terms of like its modern history over the past 100 years, it might actually be more complicated than China. A lot of Chinese history I know just by virtue of it being required reading for leftists, like Mao and the revolution and fighting against the Chinese imperialists and blah, blah, blah. But a lot of stuff that happened after the formation of the CCP has been like consolidation. Whereas with India, it seems like there's been so much, that's not a competition, the radical dino. We're not comparing. You don't need to fight it. I should say at the very least that China's development in the past century makes a lot more sense to me, whereas it seems like India is almost senseless from a Western perspective. It's so complicated and big that I don't even really know. You JoJo'd me, Lamau. I'm on your shit, Dino. Next, you're going to say, haha, Lamau. Oh, okay, close enough. China has a history of unity. India being unified was an exception. That is true, isn't it? For, like, obviously China's borders have moved, but there has been a literally like millennia-long tendency for China to have some kind of unified identity, whereas up until quite recently, India was like 50 million tribes and societies and civilizations battling each other, and only very recently was there any kind of consolidation. That hasn't been like, it was more than that, more than 50 million? It was more like 3 to 4 civilizations or empires, not 60. Yeah, but even that's kind of crazy. Do you think Kashmir should join Pakistan? If it could be done peacefully, probably, yeah. India's probably a long road away from being, like, not generally Islamophobic. I don't know. Kashmir seems like... So that means no? I mean, yeah, that means no. Because it would be a war. They're both nuclear nations. So I don't want war between India and Pakistan. They want that badly enough on their own. A lot of Kashmiris want to be independent. Again, if they can do it, like, you know, without triggering a World War III, that'd be great. How the Pakistan get nukes? Didn't we do that? Isn't that us? No? Who gave it to them? British? Sorry, when I say us, I usually mean, in this context, I mean the West. I mean, like, did the West not facilitate this? Not necessarily America, I should say. Because we back their current military. Pakistan is less stable. They got their military dictatorship, whatever. I think China helped them to help front against India. That makes sense. Pakistan developed them themselves. It makes sense that China would want to support Pakistan's nuclear development, or at least, like, enable it or allow it, because India and China have beef, and Pakistan is a big wedge against India, because they're fighting over, like, historically disputed territory. Well, anyway, this guy's sad, and that's cool, I guess. In all seriousness, stuff like this gives me a lot more hope for India. India is a big, confusing, incoherent mess of a country to me. I imagine it is also that way to people who live in India. You know, it's pretty big and I can barely fathom the American political landscape sometimes, and America is far simpler than India is in terms of their, like, range and dynamic. You know, we have to create narratives and simplify those narratives to make things make sense from a distance. You know, I am glad that a lot of the wind has been taken away from Modi, you know? I'm glad that he's been brought down to earth significantly. Makes me happy.